So welcome to Martini Time, and this beautiful day in Blackstone, the center of the world, but then you too are the center of the world. And today, for the first time, I'm using my uncle's Waterford martini glass, which is, well, you can't see it but anyway, it's very elegant. You know, it's very expensive. I'm really honored. And I have a guest here from across the country who's watching me talk here. And so he has a martini too. And the title of this talk is The Republican Party is a Secular Catholic Church. So I've been kind of like fleshing out this idea today because I keep seeing the signs and the paradigm of the Catholic Church with the Pope at the top and the pyramid and the abbots and the priests and the people at the bottom. And the Republican Party is a pyramid with the president at the top and the congressmen and the abbots and all of that and the everything, pyramids, two pyramids, seem to be able to superimpose. So I wanted to talk about that because it's very difficult for us to understand just what in the hell is going on today. It's insane. And but there is a logic to insanity if you can see it from a different viewpoint. The problem is that insanity happens when you're stuck in a viewpoint, but if you change your viewpoint, the insanity goes away. Well, the problems still remain, but at least you have a better understanding of what's going on, and that helps a lot, believe me. So, let's just draw a few parallels here. The problem is, so maybe not the problem, I'm not trying to find fault with the Republican Party or the Catholic Church. I'm just trying to use these analogies to understand get a broader picture, a wide angle of what we're looking at here, instead of a narrow focus angle, because everything today is narrow focus, and we need the wide angle. So the wide angle view is that human beings need both faith and reason. Reason gives you the secular, humanistic, rational, democratic, liberal civilization that has given us air conditioning and cars and all the comforts that we love, was created by the Enlightenment, which was modernity. The modern world is secular, rational, and democratic. That's the modern world. But this modern world, whose truth and the scientist is the priest, and the science is the church, and the scientist is the priest, keeping with the religious analogy. And they can tell you how things are made, and they can tell you about you as an object, why, evolution and all of that, you see. So science is really good at telling you how you were made, and how the universe is made, and how to make it better. So science controls and predicts the future. You don't need God. So that's what really, after the Middle Ages, God was disposable. But we can't live without God. We can't live without faith, because faith in God, or religion, gives us meaning and value. So we can't live without meaning. So we have to create meaning. So how do you create meaning in a scientific, secular world, you see, where everything is the same? Everything is a thing. Everything just evolved by chance. Big Bang is your God. And that's impersonal. But I want a personal relationship with the world, which gives me meaning, you see. So you can't have a personal relationship with the secular, scientific world, because everything is just an equal thing. The centers of the religious world and meaning were taken away. Copernicus and Galileo took away the earth as the center. And then Darwin took away man as the center, as the top of the pyramid. You're just a species like everyone else. And now global warming takes away another center, you see. So there's a resistance to secular, humanistic in science. And it's always been in the modern world that religion was a resistance to science. That's not new. But it's just like with the Republican Party, it came into a new form. So let's talk about that briefly. I don't have a lot of time here. So you've got two imperatives that you have to obey. One of them, reason, science, rational, logic, evidence. Got to have that. Faith, meaning, value, belief. Got to have that. But they're contradictory. They're opposite commandments. So how do you obey both at the same time? Well, the Republicans found a way to do that. The Republicans inadvertently fell into a way to obey both commandments at the same time. And you have to obey both because they're part of our nature. You can't deny faith in something greater than you and just believe in reason, and you can't deny reason and just believe in faith in the Bible or mythology or whatever, you see. So how do we have two? Well, that's been the great problem of the modern world, is that these are two incompatible commandments that both of which have to be obeyed. So how did the Republican Party solve this puzzle? Again, I'm not finding fault. So after the liberal government of LBJ and civil rights and all of these new values of secular humanism, which was equal rights for black people, that's a secular value, everybody's equal, but the South says, no, everybody isn't equal. You have, they said separate but equal, but it was obvious it wasn't separate but equal. It was like blacks down here, whites up here. So the Southern Democrats and the evangelicals, the Southern Baptists, all left the party, and the Republicans invited them in. Nixon invited them in. So what did they invite in? They invited in values. They invited in meaning and values into a secular world. So how did they make that work? Because the Republican Party couldn't say we are a religion because religion, church, and state are separate. You can't have a church state. But how can you have a secular church? Well, it has to be disguised. So you bring in values. Now the Republican Party then, as we can, if you're old enough as I am, you can look back and see how the Republican Party evolved as the moral party. This happened in the 60s. The right became the patriot party. You go to war and do your duty, young man. And the young man said, I don't want to go to war. It doesn't feel right. So, two patriotisms right there. The patriotism of individual conscience and rebellion and protest, that's patriotic. And the patriotism of obeying the government and going to war and doing your duty. Two patriotisms split. And so you get the left and the right. And that's continued on through time now, taking new forms. And so it began to morph into the form of the modern Republican Party, which was the moral party, family values, liberals, no values. Patriotism, liberals, no anti-American, no patriots. Morality, patriotism, leadership, no leadership over there, flip-flops. You see? So the Republican Party then became monolithic under Gingrich. He organized the Republicans like a redcoat army. Everybody marched in lockstep. Democrats, liberals, all over the place. Blah, 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 blah. You see? Republicans, phalanx, a Greek phalanx. Boom, 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 boom. Everybody talking the same thing. Boom, boom, boom. You see? And so they became very powerful. But they were able to maintain the faith and reason paradox because they would talk in a secular language, but it was coded to reference the values of the Christians and segregationists. So you have language saying, so we're going to pay voter ID. That's a secular thing. There's corruption out there. There's voter fraud. We're going to fix it. Have voter ID. But then the effect of that is to limit the voting power of blacks. And so the liberals look around and say, well, we can't find any voter ID, voter fraud. You see? So you got these two, so yes, there's voter fraud. We found one, there's voter fraud. So there you have a segregationist or a value policy disguised as a rational policy. So you have rational policies that have value effects. You see how that works? Rational policies, but the effect is for value, the value of its base, the value of its congregation. So getting back to the Catholic Church, then you have the Pope. The Pope is infallible. The Church is infallible. Republican Party, President is infallible. Nixon, President does it, it's legal. President's infallible. Their party's infallible. And the primary value to belong to the Church or the Republican Party is loyalty. You don't argue the talking points. You don't argue the creed. You mouth the creed. You speak the creed. You speak the principles. Another thing that's interesting is that in the Catholic Church, the Church is the instrument of grace through the sacraments. The priest can be corrupt, and if the priest gives you Mass and he molested a child, the Mass is still effective. I bet you didn't know that. If a corrupt priest gives you a sacrament, the sacrament is still powerful. God's grace flows through the Church, not the priest. In the Protestant religion, there is no monolithic church, so the sacrament is the minister. So grace flows through the moral integrity of the minister. But the priest does not have to have, of course they want moral integrity, but I mean, if the priest, Catholic priests can joke and tell dirty jokes and drink and all that, where Protestants, no drinking, no cussing. You see? Watch your sin, you see. So, Irish priests have always been more drinking buddy at the bar type of guy, But anyway, so that you get this idea of, and so what's happening right now with Kavanaugh and all of the, quote, moral members of the Trump church, you see, they're all corrupt. And the sexual indiscretions are coming out of the woodwork, you see. Why? Because the power is in the party and not in the individuals. So the individuals are not required to be morally pure. You see, just like the Catholic priests. Although, and don't get me, I'm just trying to point out, you see, that the church, different from the Protestant churches, the church is the infallible body of Christ. This is the historic Catholic Church. The church is the body of Christ. And so it's through the church's sacraments that you get a relationship with Christ, not the priest. He's just an empty vessel, you see. So I make that comparison there to show that the Republican Party, as a vehicle of power, as the party, is kind of like the church in that the priest can be infallible. And the problem with being morally pure, when you have to be a moral party and you have to put on a moral persona and be publicly morally pure, you can quite be sure that your hospital gown is open in the back and you've got some turds showing there. You know what I mean? You're going to have some sin in the back that's not showing, because nobody can be morally pure. Reality is not morally pure. Reality is not perfect, you see. So if you try to be perfect, imperfection is going to come out in an unexpected and unintended way. But anyway, I think we all get an idea of that. So what else did I want to compare here? So we're at a time, so when Trump came to power, this brought the whole house of cards down. The whole Republican game has been brought down because Trump was elected as Pope, president of the Holy Roman Republican Church, you see, the Pope there. And the Pope is morally corrupt, obviously. Infidelity, lies, hiring corrupted people, the whole thing, you see. So now you have a morally pure party and a morally imperfect head of the party, or the president is the personification of the party. So this is incompatible. So the poor members of this party, you see, are caught in a double bind. Do I believe reason or faith? You can't have both. Reason says Trump is corrupt. Faith says he's president, he's infallible, he can't break the law, he's above the law. I go with Trump. You see right there? So that has split the Republican psyche into two incompatible halves, and that's creating a neurosis. A neurosis is a split mind that can't communicate with each other because it's divided into two opposite halves. So you go, wow, 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 you can't choose, you can't do anything, you're paralyzed. You can't choose because you got two me's. One of them, the two me's believe opposite realities. So how can you have a choice? A choice makes one reality. I choose lemonade. If I choose lemonade, I don't drink tea at the same time. I choose lemonade, you see. So you can't choose faith or reason because faith and reason are part of the same psyche. Thanks for dropping in. Hope I muddied the water a little more. See you tomorrow.